The laundry basket was a giant. Not the plastic kind with holes, but the big, floppy fabric one that lived in the hallway. On laundry day, it wasn't a basket anymore. It was a mountain. A soft, colorful mountain of everything my family wore. My dad's big blue work shirts, my brother's grass-stained jeans, and my own sparkly t-shirts were all mixed up together like a big, clean salad. Usually, it was Mom's mountain to conquer. I would watch her from the doorway, her face looking a little tight, as she'd sigh and pull a stray sock from the pile. She always looked tired on laundry day, but not today. Today was my secret mission. Mom was in the garden, trying to make the sad-looking flowers stand up straight. I could see her through the kitchen window, her back to the house. It was the perfect time. My brother Tom was at his friend's house. Dad was still at work. It was just me and the mountain. My heart did a little thump, 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 the way it did when I was about to do something important, like a spelling test. This felt more important than a spelling test. I was going to make Mom smile. A real smile, not the quick, tired one she sometimes gave me when she was busy. I dragged the heavy basket into the living room. It made a soft shh sound against the carpet. I tipped it over, and the mountain collapsed into a big, soft hill. It smelled good, like sunshine and the soap that has a picture of a baby on it. For a second, I just sat there. It looked like even more clothes when they were all spread out. Maybe this was a bad idea. My arms were small. Dad's shirts were big. No, I could do this. I was 8. 8 was practically a grown-up. I started with the easy things. The towels. They were just big rectangles. Folded in half, then in half again. Easy peasy. I made a neat pile of blue and white towels by the sofa. Then I did the washcloths and the kitchen towels. My little tower of folded things was growing. I felt a bubble of pride in my chest. It was like building with Legos, but softer. The shirts were harder. I remembered how Mom did it. Lay it flat on its face, fold one arm in, then the other arm in, and then fold it from the bottom up. My first try with Dad's shirt was a wrinkly mess. It looked more like a blue cloud. I unfolded it and tried again, pulling the sleeves tight and smoothing the collar down with my hand. Much better. It wasn't perfect like when Mom did it, but it looked like a shirt. I carefully placed it on my growing tower. One by one, I folded everything. Tom's superhero pajamas, my pink leggings, Mom's soft sweaters that I loved to hug. I made little piles for everyone, a Dad pile, a Mom pile, a Tom pile, and a Sophie pile. It took a long, long time. The sun started to get sleepy outside, and the living room grew a little darker. My back was starting to feel a bit achy, and my fingers were tired from pinching and folding. But when I looked at the floor, the hill of clothes was gone. All that was left were my 4 neat, colorful towers. The floor was clear. The giant basket was empty. I did it. I really did it. I sat on the floor next to my laundry towers, my hands clasped in my lap. It felt like the moment after you've decorated the whole house for Christmas, and you're just waiting for everyone to wake up and see it. I puffed up my chest, trying to hold on to the proud feeling. I imagined Mom's face. First, she would be confused, looking for the big, messy mountain. Then her eyes would find my neat piles, and she would gasp, a happy gasp. She would kneel down and wrap me in a big hug, the kind that smelled like her flower garden and her soft sweaters all at once. "Oh, Sophie," she would say, "you did all this for me? You have no idea how much this helps." The sound of the sliding glass door from the kitchen opening made me jump. My heart started that fast thump, thump, thump again, but this time it was mixed with a fizzy, excited feeling, like soda pop bubbles going up my nose. I heard her footsteps, the tired sound of her shoes on the kitchen tile. Thwump, thwump, thwump. "Sophie?" she called out. Her voice sounded thin. "Dinner's going to be a little late. The weeds out back are just impossible." "I'm in here, Mom," I called back, my voice a little squeaky with excitement. She walked into the living room, wiping her hands on a dish towel. She wasn't looking at the laundry. She was looking at the clock on the wall. "Have you washed your hands? And could you please set the table? Just the forks and napkins for now. I haven't even started the pasta." My smile faltered for a second. She hadn't seen it. Of course she hadn't. She was looking at the clock. "Mom," I said, a little louder. "Look, I have a surprise." Finally, her eyes moved away from the clock. They scanned the living room, and for a moment they just looked blank. I could see her brain working, trying to figure out what was different. Her eyes went to the corner where the laundry mountain usually lived. It was empty. Then her gaze dropped to the floor, where I was sitting next to my 4 perfect towers. There was a silence. It wasn't the happy, gasping silence I had imagined. It was a different kind of quiet. A still, heavy quiet. "You folded the laundry?" she asked. Her voice wasn't happy. It wasn't angry. It was just flat. I nodded, my big proud smile coming back. All of it. I did it all by myself so you wouldn't have to. It's all sorted. I pointed to each pile. That one's Dad's, that one's Tom's, that's yours, and that's mine. She walked closer, not looking at me, but at the piles. She bent down and picked up the top shirt from Dad's pile, the blue one I had worked so hard on. She held it up. My neatly folded rectangle turned back into a shirt. I saw a few wrinkles I had missed. "Honey, that's a nice thought," she started, and my heart gave a hopeful leap. But then she kept talking. "But look." She ran her finger over a crease. "You have to smooth it out properly, or it just sets the wrinkles in. And the sleeves, you've got to fold them just so." She started to refold it, her movements quick and sure, making my careful work disappear. She placed her perfectly folded shirt down and picked up a towel. "And you mixed the kitchen towels in with the bath towels. They have to be washed and stored separately, you know that." My smile melted. The bubble of pride in my chest didn't just pop. It felt like it shriveled up into a tiny, cold raisin. She moved from pile to pile, unfolding a few items, inspecting them with a little frown, and then refolding them her way. "Well," she said with a sigh, standing up and looking at the 4 piles that now had her perfect folds sitting on top of my messy ones. "I appreciate the effort, sweetie, but now I have to do a lot of these over again, and we're already late for dinner." She turned to walk back to the kitchen. "I still need you to set the table. You didn't do that, and it's something you were supposed to do." She left. Just like that. The sound of her tired footsteps faded back into the kitchen, replaced by the clatter of a pot being placed on the stove. I stayed on the floor, surrounded by my 4 towers. They didn't look like proud towers anymore. They looked like sloppy, lopsided piles of my own failure. Even Mom's perfectly refolded shirt and towel seemed to be mocking my clumsy attempts. My eyes started to sting, and the room went blurry, like I was looking at it through a wobbly window. A big, hot tear rolled down my cheek and plopped right onto my jeans. Then another. I didn't want Mom to hear me crying. Crying meant I was a baby, and babies can't fold laundry or set tables. I was 8. 8 was supposed to be a helper, but I wasn't a helper. I had made more work for her. I had mixed the towels. I had made wrinkles. I had tried to do a grown-up job and failed, and now she was even more tired than before. The cold raisin in my chest felt like it was growing roots, spreading icy little tendrils through my whole body. I wiped my face with the back of my hand and stood up on wobbly legs. My mission wasn't over. I still had a job to do. Set the table. I walked to the kitchen drawer, my feet feeling heavy like Dad's work boots. I pulled out the forks, their silver shine looking dull in the dim light. I didn't get the napkins. She had said, "Just the forks and napkins." But then she had said, "You didn't do that." And now my brain felt all jumbled up. Doing the napkins felt like it might be the wrong thing to do. So I just took the forks. I placed 1 fork at my spot, 1 at Tom's, 1 at Mom's, and 1 at Dad's. The clink of each fork on the wooden table sounded loud and angry in the quiet house. From the kitchen, I could hear Mom sigh again. It was a long, deep sigh that sounded like all the tiredness in the world was coming out of her at once. It wasn't because of the laundry mountain anymore. It was because of me. Just then, the front door burst open and my brother Tom ran in. "I'm home. Is dinner ready? I'm so hungry I could eat a whole elephant." He threw his backpack on the floor and ran past the living room without even looking. He didn't see the laundry piles. He didn't see my red, puffy eyes. He just saw Mom in the kitchen and yelled, "Can we have garlic bread?" I felt invisible. It was like my secret mission. The long hours of folding and the big, hot tears had all happened in a different world that only I could see. Dad came home a few minutes later. He kissed Mom on the cheek and said, "Smells delicious, Em." He ruffled my hair as he walked past me. "Hey, Pumpkin, how was school?" "Fine," I mumbled, looking at the floor. He didn't notice anything either. No one did. Dinner was quiet. Tom chattered about the video game he played at his friend's house. Dad talked about a man at his work who told a funny joke. Mom was mostly silent, just pushing pasta around her plate and saying, at the right times. I didn't say anything. The spaghetti on my plate looked like a tangled, messy pile of red and white worms. I poked them with my fork, the fork I had put there, the one thing I had done right. "Sophie, eat your food. Don't just play with it," Mom said, and her voice wasn't mean, but it was flat and empty, like a room with no furniture in it. I took a bite. It tasted like nothing. After dinner, as I was walking to my room, I saw that the living room was empty. The 4 piles of laundry were gone. I peeked into my parents' room. There, on their bed, were two perfectly neat stacks of clothes. I looked in my own room. My sparkly t-shirts and pink leggings were folded in my drawer, each one a perfect, smooth square. Mom had done it all over again. The right way. My help hadn't been help at all. It had just been a mess that someone else had to clean up. That night, I lay in my bed with the covers pulled up so tight they pressed against my chin. My nightlight, a friendly, smiling star, was supposed to make me feel safe, but its yellow glow just made the shadows in the corners of my room seem darker and deeper. Usually, I would find sleepy dragons and lumpy boats in the shapes on the ceiling. Tonight, all I could see were messy, unfolded shirts. I blinked and blinked, but the image wouldn't go away. Sleep was a million miles away. Every time I closed my eyes, it was like watching a little movie I didn't want to see. The giant laundry mountain. My 4 small, proud towers. My mom's face, not angry, but something worse. Disappointed. The way her fingers had so easily undone my hard work. The word she used kept bouncing around in my head, hitting the inside of my skull like a rubber ball. Effort. I appreciate the effort, sweetie. It was the same word my art teacher, Mrs. Davis, used when my painting of a horse looked more like a brown dog. It was a word for trying, not for succeeding. A word for a mess. I hadn't been a helper. I had been an effort. The house was so still I felt like I could hear my own heart beating. Thump, 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 thump. It sounded slow and heavy, like a sad drum. From the room next to mine, I could hear my brother Tom breathing the soft, even breaths of someone dreaming of good things. Downstairs, the refrigerator hummed its low, humming song. But then, underneath the hum, I heard something else. A murmur. The sound of voices. My throat felt scratchy and tight. I needed a drink of water. I slid out from under the covers, my bare feet making no sound on the cool wooden floor. The hallway was a tunnel of darkness, but a thin slice of light from downstairs cut across the floor at the bottom of the staircase. I crept forward, 1 step at a time, holding my breath so I wouldn't make a sound. 3 steps to the big, leafy plant that always tickled my arm. 5 more to the top of the stairs where the shadows were deepest. I sank down onto the top step, hidden in the dark. It was Mom and Dad. "You were a little hard on her, Em," Dad's voice said. It was low and calm, the voice he used when Tom scraped his knee. A long silence followed. Then I heard a sound like a sniffle, and when Mom's voice came, it was wobbly and thick. "I know, Mark. I know." The second it came out of my mouth, I wanted to pull it back in. I saw her face. Her little smile just collapsed. I felt like the worst mother in the entire world. My hand flew to my mouth to trap the little gasp that tried to escape. She had seen my smile disappear. "Then why?" Dad asked, his voice still gentle. "She was so proud. She'd even sorted it all into piles for us." I don't know," Mom whispered. I heard her take a shaky breath. "I walked in from the garden, and I felt like I'd been wrestling with those weeds for a year. I was already thinking about how late dinner was, and how I forgot to mail the check for the car payment, and that Tom needs a new permission slip for his field trip. My head was just full, buzzing. And then I walked in, and I saw it." Her voice broke on that last word. "And it wasn't help," she sobbed. And this time it wasn't a quiet sniffle, but a real, heartbreaking sob. It sounds so cruel, but it wasn't help. It was just one more thing on the list. One more thing that wasn't done right that I had to fix. It's like I'm drowning, Mark. I am drowning in things that need to be done perfectly, and if one thing is out of place, the whole day falls apart. And I looked at those sweet, messy little piles of clothes, and all I could think was, now I have to unfold every single piece of this and do it all over again. And I hated myself for thinking it. I hated it, but I couldn't stop. I heard a soft shuffling sound, and then Dad's voice was closer, more muffled. "You're not drowning, Em. You're just doing too much. We're doing too much." "She was just trying to help me," Mom cried into his shoulder. My sweet little girl just wanted to make me smile, and I made her feel like she had failed. But it's me who's failing. I'm failing at all of it. I pushed my fist against my mouth, my knuckles digging into my lips. My chest hurt. It was a deep, confusing ache, like my heart was being squeezed by a giant hand. She wasn't mad at me. She was sad. She was tired. She felt like she was failing, just like me. I had felt like a failure all evening because I couldn't fold the laundry right. She felt like a failure because of the weeds and the dinner and the laundry and all of it. How could a mom fail? Moms were the ones who fixed failures. They didn't have them. The glass of water was completely forgotten. I turned and crept back to my room. the slice of light disappearing as I went. I slipped back into bed, but the smiling star on my nightlight didn't look happy anymore. It just looked like a shape. The world felt different. It was like I had been living in a house painted in bright, simple colors, and someone had just shown me that underneath, there were all these other colors. Dark, messy, complicated ones. The laundry wasn't just laundry. It was something else. Something heavy that I didn't have a name for. And I had tried to lift it, but it was too heavy for me. And the biggest, scariest secret I had learned tonight was that sometimes it was too heavy for Mom, too. The next morning, the first thing I noticed was the quality of the light. It wasn't the harsh, bright light of a full day, but the soft, gentle yellow of a new beginning, painting stripes across my blanket. The house was quiet, but it wasn't the heavy, listening quiet of the night before. It was a peaceful, morning quiet. When I took a deep breath, I realized the cold, tight raisin of sadness in my chest had vanished. In its place, something warm and a little wobbly had settled, like a baby bird I was holding carefully in my hands. It was the feeling of knowing a secret. Not a fun, exciting secret, but a heavy, important one. The secret was that my mom wasn't just Mom. She was Emily. And Emily got tired. The thought of doing another secret mission, of trying to conquer another mountain, made my stomach feel funny. That wasn't what was needed. My plan yesterday had been about doing a big, loud thing to get a big, happy reaction. I had learned that big, loud things could also make a big, messy noise. Today, I didn't want to conquer a mountain. I just wanted to take one single stone off the pile she was carrying. A small one, so she might not even notice the weight was less. But I would know. I slipped out of bed, my feet silent in my fuzzy slippers. I tiptoed past the top of the stairs, which no longer looked like a secret listening post, but just a normal staircase. Downstairs, I didn't even glance at the living room. My mission was in the kitchen. On the table, the 4 forks I'd left last night were still there, lonely and incomplete. I remembered her words, not the ones about the laundry, but the other ones. I still need you to set the table. You didn't do that. It was a job she'd given me. A job I had failed to do. I could do it now. I went to the silverware drawer and pulled it open with a soft shh. I didn't just grab the forks this time. I carefully picked out 4 spoons and 4 knives, even though I knew we'd only use the knives for buttering toast. It was about being complete. I went to the cupboard and stood on my tiptoes to reach the plates. I took them down one by one, not stacking them on my arm like a clumsy waitress. One at a time. I placed a plate at each spot, making sure the little flower pattern was facing up on all of them. Then a fork on the left. A knife and spoon on the right, their edges perfectly parallel. I went back and got the napkins, the nice cloth ones that felt soft and important. I remembered the way Mom had shown me how to fold them into a triangle a long time ago, for a fancy Sunday dinner. My fingers were clumsy, but I concentrated, folding each one until it had a sharp point. I placed one beside each fork. The table looked beautiful. It wasn't a mountain of a surprise. It was just a table, ready for a family. But it felt more important than the entire laundry basket. I was smoothing the last napkin when I heard a floorboard creak upstairs. My heart gave a little jump, but not a scared jump. A ready jump. A few moments later, Mom appeared in the kitchen doorway. She was dressed in her soft robe, and her hair was a sleepy tangle. The tired lines were still etched around her eyes. She stopped dead when she saw me. Her gaze went from me, standing there in my pajamas, to the table, set so perfectly, glowing in the morning sun. For a long moment, she didn't say anything. I watched her face. I saw confusion, then surprise. And then something else happened. The tightness around her mouth softened. The tired lines around her eyes seemed to fade. She walked slowly to the table and ran her hand over one of the cloth napkins, her finger tracing the fold I had made. "It's perfect, Sophie," she said, and her voice was a quiet whisper, thick with a feeling I couldn't name. I looked down at my slippers, my cheeks suddenly hot. "I'm sorry about the laundry," I mumbled into the floor. "I made it wrinkly." She was beside me in a second, kneeling on the kitchen floor so our eyes were looking right at each other. "Oh, honey." "No," she said, shaking her head as her shiny eyes locked onto mine. "You have nothing to be sorry for. What you did yesterday, it was the biggest, most wonderful help I have ever gotten." My eyebrows scrunched together in confusion. "But I made a mess. You had to do it all again." "The folding wasn't the help," she said, and she reached out, her hand so gentle as she tucked a stray piece of my hair behind my ear. "The help was that you saw me. You saw that I was tired and you wanted to do something about it all on your own. You gave me the gift of your heart. The gift was the wanting. That is the most important, most beautiful part. I was too full of my own tired to see it yesterday. And I am so, so sorry for that. A single tear finally spilled from her eye and rolled down her cheek. But this one didn't look like a sad tear. It looked like a full tear, full of all the words she was saying. She pulled me into a hug, a real one, wrapping her arms all the way around me and holding me tight against her soft robe. I buried my face in her shoulder. She smelled like sleep and morning, and something I finally understood as just, Mom. I hugged her back, my small arms squeezing as hard as they could. I wasn't just hugging my mom, I was hugging Emily, the person who got tired, and I thought maybe she could feel that. When she finally let go, she wiped her eyes with the back of her hand and gave me a real smile. It was wobbly and watery, but it reached her eyes and made them crinkle. Now, she said, her voice still a little shaky, I was planning on making a big breakfast, but that seems like a lot of work. What do you say you and I just get the cereal, and we sit on the sofa and watch cartoons until the boys wake up? It was the single best offer in the history of the world. A few minutes later, we were curled up on the sofa, a cozy blanket spread over our laps. The TV was on, making silly cartoon noises, but we weren't really watching. We were just sitting together, our shoulders touching, munching on our cereal in the quiet morning light. The house was still. The day hadn't really started, and for the first time I understood. Love wasn't always about big, heroic, mountain-moving gestures. Sometimes love was noticing. Sometimes it was folding a napkin the right way. And sometimes it was just sitting together in the quiet, sharing a simple bowl of cereal, and giving someone the gift of not having to fix anything at all.